Alright, very quick lesson on how to graph inequalities. Couple of rules. When you are graphing a less than or a greater than equation, you want to use a dashed line. That kind of represents like the open circle does when we were graphing inequalities on a number line. Open circle means that that number is not technically included. Same with a dashed line. If it's a dashed line, it doesn't really include that line. Now if it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, that's when you want to use a solid line. Okay, and then we're going to do some shading. So here's the thing. There's a little trick that only works if you are in y equals mx plus b. But I have a few different ways that I can tell you to do this. Remember, I like to give options. By giving you options, you get to pick the method that you like best. So the first thing that I want to do is I would like to graph a line. So in order to graph a line, you have to know how to graph from earlier this chapter. So y is less than or equal to negative 2/3 x plus 4. So what you need to do is you need to go to your b, your plus 4, you have a slope of down 2 over 3, down 2 over 3. Get a couple of points here. Since it is less than or equal to, you use a solid line. And then when you shade, if you are in slope-intercept form, if it says y is less than, think about y. Y is less. If y is less, you go below. So then you would just shade below this line. And that is your final answer. So you must have the correct line, and you must shade in the right direction. Okay? So for the second one, why don't you go ahead and pause the video, give it a quick try, and we'll touch base in just a second. So this says y is greater than 2x minus 6. So we're going to start at our minus 6. We're going to go up 2 over 1. And this one is a dashed line because it is a greater than. It does not include anything on that line. So this one says y is greater than. So to shade this one, when y is greater, that means y goes above. Okay, so then you would just shade above, and you are good to go. You don't need a highlighter. You can just sketch it with your pencil. As long as you are very clear to me which region you are shading, you are good to go. Now, I said there was another way to do this. And if you are in standard form, that above or below trick isn't going to work. Some of you might have heard of doing it with a test point before. So basically what you do, if this says y is less than or equal to, pick a point on either side of the line. And what you're going to do is you're going to substitute it into the equation and see if it's true or false. So for example, if I were to pick 0, 0 for this first example, you get to pick the point. Don't think I picked it for a reason. The only reason I picked that is because it's easy to substitute in. Plug it into the inequality and see if it's true. So y is less than or equal to, so that would be 0 is less than or equal to 0 plus 4, which is 0 is less than or equal to 4. That is a true statement. So you would shade in that direction of your test point. Now, for the second example, let's say that you picked a point way down here. Let's say you picked 10, 10, or 10, negative 10. What you would do is you would still substitute that in, so you would get negative 10 is greater than 2 times 10 minus 6. So you would get negative 10 is greater than 14, and that's a false statement. So if this was your test point and you get a false statement, you shade in the opposite direction of your test point. In this one, it was a true statement, so you shade in the direction of your test point. Now again, if you're in slope-intercept form, if y is greater than, you shade above. If y is less than, you shade below. But if you are in standard form, you must, be very careful. Here are our last two examples for the notes. These are just to teach you about horizontal and vertical lines. This first example says y is less than 4. So remember, y equals our horizontal lines. This is a dashed line at y equals 4. It is less than, so all you have to do is shade below. And you've got your y equals, or y is less than 4. The next example is a vertical line. Now, vertical lines are just a little bit tricky because, you know, I've been using the words shade above or below, but you can't shade above or below a vertical line. You can only shade to the right or to the left. So luckily, we can just shade to the right or to the left when we do these questions. So x is greater than or equal to -1. That's a vertical line, solid vertical line at x equals -1. And since it says greater than, we know x is greater than to the right. So then you would just shade to the right, and you would be done. And that's it. That's how you graph inequalities. We will eventually get to compound inequalities where we graph more than one on a single grid, but for right now, those are the basics. Remember, less than, greater than, dashed lines. Less than, equal to, greater than, equal to, solid lines. If you're in slope-intercept form, if it's y is greater, you shade above. Y is less, you shade below. If it's a vertical line, x is greater than, shades right, less than, shades left. This is Longo, and I'm out.